Today on MuscleCar, it's business time. Our big bad Dodge Dart gets its day in the sun, where we run it around town, on the highway, and down the track. Learn how to keep your wheels from spinning in the wrong way. Plus, we flash back to our Dart's swinging cousin.
Well, after some backache, some skint knuckles, and a whole lot of wrench time, today's the day that Project Business Time gets to see some sunshine. And it's come a long ways from whenever it rolled out of Detroit. By the time we ran across this car, she was looking pretty honored. We got it back to the shop and started with the suspension, both front and rear, including cutting the floor out for a back half kit. Once we got it fit to size, we burned it in. With the footprint widened in the back and skinnied up front, a roll cage was built into it as well. We were able to plug in our blown 700 horsepower pump gas Hemi. We planted some big old tubs in the rear of it, plugged in the exhaust, modified the bumper, lined out the fuel system, got the floor burned back in and ready for action. Wired it up and had Jamie Jordan build us some custom interior panels. After some quality time with some sandpaper, we finally got it painted. And then some over-the-top graphics on the hood were the cherry on the top of this mean Mopar.
If you'll remember, something else that happened last time was that the seats were too wide to accommodate the harness that we wanted to install in the car. If left as they were, the harness would have fallen right off of our shoulders. The solution was for Tommy to take the seats back apart and cut a pathway for the harness to go right through them. Once they were reassembled, we sent the seats out to the upholstery shop to get the vinyl resewn. Then it was just a matter of sending the belts through the hole and hooking them all up.
The TCI 6-speed transmission that we opted for, well, it's been in the car for a pretty good little while. And we chose it for a couple of reasons. One was the big old overdrive, and two, the simplicity of hooking that thing up. The EZ TCU that came in the kit allows you to get on the road without any software, laptop, or tuning experience. All you have to do is hook it up, power it up, and then answer the questions it asks you. And if you're looking for a purpose-specific setting, the unit is also fully programmable based on load, speed, and RPM.
Here's a cool trick we used when we were sealing the deal on which transmission to use in the Dodge. We knew we wanted to use the car at highway speed, but wanted to stay away from the high RPMs at that speed. What you can do is jump on the computer and head over to our website at PowerBlockTV.com. All you need are your tire diameter, rear end gear ratio, and transmission drive ratios. Plug all those numbers in and find out how hard your engine will be turning when you roll down the highway.
From the get-go, we wanted to make sure our old Dodge was as much street-friendly as it is track-friendly. So for rear tires, we went with a set of Mickey Thompson ET Street, which are DOT approved. Now some guys, when they get to the track, can run into an issue that's kind of unique to drag racing. When you run into the combination of a big, powerful engine, some sticky tires, and a track that bites, well, next thing you know, this rim is slipping inside the tire when the car launches.
A tried and true way to make sure that your wheel and tires stay in place is to make a mark across the both of them at the track. And if you found that they've moved more than 1 inch between runs, it may be a problem you have to address.
There are several ways to prevent this problem, and a couple of them are street legal and a couple of them aren't. So it's probably a pretty good idea for you to check out your local laws to see what's what. Now, if you watched that other show, Extreme 4x4 with Ian, you've probably seen him bolt on a couple sets of these. Now, this is a bead lock, and it will definitely keep the rim from slipping inside the tire. What these do is literally sandwich the tire bead up against the rim, holding them in place and transferring all that energy from the wheels to the ground. Now, it requires a wheel that's designed to work with these, so keep that in mind if you're making plans for your car. Another option is rim screws. This is a rim screw kit that we got from Mr. Gasket. And just so you know, this is for competition applications, not street cars. This is how it works. You drill a hole through the rim, and then once you mount the tire, you run the screws through it, which will keep the tire in place. I'm going to show you how to make all this work with this tire and that rim. We want 12 screws evenly placed on the wheel to ensure a good bite. And according to my calculations, that means we want our screws to be right at 4 1/4 inches apart from each other. I just made a piece of cardboard that's the right length and marked it all the way around. Now whenever you go to drill the hole, you want to make sure to make it in the center of the wheel lip, in between this edge and that edge. When you're about to put holes in a high-dollar piece of metal like this wheel, one of these Matco mechanical punches will make your life a whole lot easier. It provides a good seat for my drill bit, so you can make these holes without worrying about slipping and sliding all around. I'll use some Royal Purple Ultra Performance grease to lubricate the screws while I use them to cut the thread. I like that big death grip you got on it.
It's fake. It's fake.
Say, I ain't even got a cheater pipe on this 1/4 inch ratchet. You want to do this before you mount the tire so you can grind off any hunks of sharp metal that might mess up the tire's bead. Next step is you want to knock that little burr off that the screw created. Well, I'm going to repeat the process on the other side and then take these two out and get them mounted up. With the tire mounted and the tube a little bit overinflated, I can run my screws in and then deflate it to operating pressure.
We put the street part of our Pro Street to the test by taking our Dart out for her maiden voyage. Then find out why A-bodies are the cool new thing.
"18.5" Mickey Thompson's around Weld Racing forged aluminum wheels, an 871 YN blower, a modified and refurbished bumper and grille, 4-point harnesses from Summit Racing, custom Hemi graphics on the hood, along with refurbished taillights and rear deck lid. An IDETIC column connected to a Riley Motorsports front suspension setup. Underneath, an Arrington Racing 426 Hemi built by Horsepower TV that pushes right around 700 ponies. A willow green PPG paint scheme, an S&W back half kit, along with piles of other odds and ends, and a whole mountain of man hours. We've been waiting a long time for this. How hard is it to see over top of that blower?
As long as I don't have to look too far to the right when I'm making a left-hand turn, it's not bad.
We're over here riding around this cool little neighborhood. It's slushing around. You know what we're doing right now, Steve?
Tell me.
We're planting seeds, if you will. There's some little kid on his bicycle that's watching us drive by go, "I want one of those." I remember I was that kid one time. They're like, "Yeah."
I'll tell you what though, for the first time out, I'm looking at all the gauges and stuff. This thing is actually not performing too bad considering we've got like 4 miles on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're staying right at 190, 195. We got 60 pounds oil pressure. It's not bad. Maiden voyage out.
On the way back to the shop, we can annoy a few people, but there's no need to get silly. We need to recheck every nut, bolt, and fluid on here. Then, we can hit the highway. You wouldn't believe how well this thing drives on the highway if we told you. Of course, it has a responsive throttle. This thing goes straight as an arrow, and it's comfortable while it does it. We'll hit our closed course to blow out the cobwebs on the way to the drag strip. And this is just 1/4 throttle. Holy moly!
Swing on by while we take a look at one of Mopar's high-performance cars of the late 60s. And then business time takes a stroll down US 43 Dragway. Will she behave herself? Stick around. Today's Flashback, a 69 Dodge Dart Swinger.
What better way to enjoy the swinging 60s than in a 69 Dart Swinger? The Dodge boys dreamed up this mini muscle car to snag buyers strapped for cash. Selling it as 6,000 RPM for under $3 grand. For that price tag, you could get anything from a straight 6 up to a 383 Magnum. But real muscle came when you ordered the 340 package. $2,800 got you the standard MuscleCar goodies like heavy-duty rally suspension, firm ride shocks, and dual chrome-tipped exhaust. Plus, you got a Hurst shifter, pulling a set of 323 gears, giving you full control as you swing into action.
It's just a real smooth driving old car. Shifts good, drives good, runs down the road real good. It's got a lot of speed.
Power bulges on the hood announced what was brewing underneath. Dodge's potent 340 small block V8. It churned out 275 horses at 5,000 RPM. Now that was less than the 383, but it made up for it by being 90 pounds lighter, making it perfectly balanced for this small car. Bumblebee Stripes tagged it as a junior member of Dodge's elite Scat Pack, including the Super Bee and the Charger. It could run with the big boys, knocking out the quarter-mile times in the mid-14s and hit 60 in just 6 seconds.
It may be 40 years old, but it's still got plenty of power.
The Swinger 340 only came in a two-door coupe, with slick options like this black vinyl top roof and exclusive bright red paint color. The sheet metal was the same as the 68 Darts, with minor changes to the grille and taillights. On the inside, the car was all business, no frills. Bench seats were standard, and there was plenty of room for all of your buddies. By today's standards, it's nowhere near a compact. It's only 1 inch shorter than a Dodge Magnum. Darts also came with a GTS package that was virtually identical to the Swinger, except it had a full 40 option, more bling, at a higher price tag. Car Life rated the Swinger as the best compact of 1969, raving it was a small car that was actually fun to drive. Its main rival was the Chevy SS Nova, which would run you about $300 more for the same amount of performance. Of all the muscle cars that year, this one was by far the best bang for your buck. How about $10 per horsepower? Plus, being so small, it flew under the muscle car radar of insurance companies, saving you even more green. The car was a hit in its first year, with over 16,000 sold, and Dodge continues swinging well into the 70s. The 69 Swinger 340 is still a good bargain today for anybody looking to own a piece of American muscle.
When you're driving a classic, you feel like a classic.
Still ahead, we talk to a Mopar guru about upcoming trends, and Business Time finally plants some rubber.
Well, Project Business Time's alive and well, so we're going to make a couple of test and tune runs today at our local drag strip, US 43 in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. If you remember back when we started this project, one of the points we wanted to get across was to show people that there's things outside of the norm if you want to build a good old piece of American muscle.
But don't be fooled, we're not the first ones to push one of these 8-body Mopars to the performance side of the spectrum. All that credit has to be tossed back to the Mopar engineers themselves.
Exhibit A is the 74 340 Duster we were able to get our hands on courtesy of Stevens Performance in Anderson, Alabama. You guys remember Ted Stevens. He's the bigwig down there, as well as being an encyclopedia of massive Mopar knowledge. He helped us out on this build with seats, bumpers, the hood, as well as some small parts we need to get it done. Ted was also the first person to ever score a full 1,000 points on a concourse build with a 68 Charger RT at the MuscleCar and Corvette Nationals. Well, Ted, some guys say that the A-body cars just don't quite have what some of the other models have. What do you think about that?
Well, they don't get the limelight like all the Hemis and the 446 packs and the ragtop Cudas and all that stuff, but they're neat in their own right. Well, they built about 170,000 of these cars in 1970, and that's 1970 alone. So these cars make great raw material for making street rides, restorations, you know, whatever you're in the mood for. And they're affordable right now compared to some of the other stuff that's out there. We got a good example right here. This is a 1970 344 speed Duster, bought from the original owner. Came from Placentia, California. Original paint, original drivetrain, tires, original everything. You wouldn't believe it, it's the greatest car in the world.
This car is on its way to the Floyd Garrett Museum in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. But before we run the dart down the track, Ted's gonna give this Duster one last hoorah. She pulls a 10 flat. Not bad for a retirement party. $7.99 on the first try, and she went straight. The tires are a little hard, so I'll deflate them and give it a run again.
No, I guess the guy that was calmly waiting gets to go second.
She launched hard enough to knock off our POV camera, and Mink almost caught my better run.
Well, Tom, we got what we wanted all in one day. We got street and strip. We drove it down here, drove it to lunch. After lunch, we drove it over here to the track, made a few passes.
Yeah, I know, and we really wasn't even pushing it that hard and got some 670s out of it. So heck, a little more fine tuning.
I think we can get mid to high fives out of her. But it's been a heck of a day. What do you think? Should we call it one and go home?
That sounds good if you'll drop me off by the house.
I'll do that.
Good deal.
If you've got any questions about anything you saw on the show today,
Go over to PowerBlockTV.com.